Bruce, welcome back.
Thanks, James. Good to be back.
Yeah. Okay, so recreational cannabis is here,
Yeah.
and we're starting to see some inkling of what it's going to look like on the balance sheets, which categorically is unimpressive so far.
Really? So glad we haven't reported yet, but I think what it's, if you said, how has it turned out? I think it got a better start than anybody could have expected. And the reason is, let's have a little memory. If I came here in June and went on your show, the question would have been, do you think they're going to pass the bill in Senate? And then July, August, September, October, 4 months later, please have a channel nationally filled to have products available that have non-uniform stickers for the whole country, so you have to have unallocated inventory up until probably October 1, because you don't know who wants what when.
Right.
And, there's been a bit of a takeoff and maybe a few things, but feels like it's sort of gaining momentum. And from a Canopy perspective, it feels like we're getting better and better each day. Our ability to get those containers through, the quantities, the volume, the product mix, right? Like when we launched, we put in what we wanted in the store, which was basic. Then we added what we think are kind of like the Canadian version of a gummy bear. Tweed gel caps, uniform 2.5 up to 10 milligrams. Better than a gummy bear because you won't get a cavity, it won't get stuck in your tooth. And it's uniform all the time, which means if you liked it in this form, in this function, come back, it's going to be the same. And now we've started and launched our rolled product, and that rolled product uses a method we had to invent because we didn't see scale and speed and accuracy to the level we expected in any available product. So we invented and patented a fantastic rolling process. And now those are in the market, and if you get them, you'll go, wow, that is actually a really well done job. And so
we haven't tried them yet.
Yeah, we think, and so we have single rolls now, and in January we'll launch 5 packs. And then we've got our packaging, I'll call bottling plant. So in Smiths Falls, we couldn't move a building, so we just knocked it down. And now we're building a 197,000 square foot bottling plant.
In anticipation of the legalization of beverages infused with cannabis.
Yeah.
So you see that continuing on pace, on schedule, because so far the track record has been to more or less stick to the schedule.
Well, and you think about it, the first thing we could sell was dried cannabis, which was principally for smoking inhalation, and that was a medical delivery mechanism. Remarkable. Because if the first thing we deliver was anything but that, we'd never get that approved again. So now you say, well, when they're going to have a recreational market with an expanded product offering, are they going to make it so that you can hail something or you can drink something? And I think every doctor and every person would say, when it goes into my gut and through my GI, it's a lot easier process to deliver and live with than if I'm inhaling stuff. Your lungs are a little more delicate.
Yeah.
Then if the platform remains, which is we want to keep it out of hands of kids, kids understand and adults do, and the people regulating every authority of liquor, that a bottle with a control cap system that's clearly the framework of an intoxicant is for mommy and daddy. The gummy bear is for me.
And therefore very attractive to a child.
Yes. So you can just start to see, if you're governing it, isn't it a lot easier to contemplate a drinkable beverage that doesn't have any form factor or appeal to children versus chocolates and gummy bears? So you gotta, when you factor that way, you sort of say, of course, we should build that plant. And we are, and Constellation is pretty helpful when you're building a bottling plant. They seem to have quite a lot of those.
They've done it before.
Yeah, I just learned the other day, they actually apparently cross the border from Mexico to the US every day with about 200 rail cars of Corona.
Wow.
That's a lot of Corona.
That's a lot of Corona.
If you're ever going to jump a train, that would probably be a good train to jump.
You'll never die of thirst anyways. Okay, so tell me about this relationship with Battelle. This is really intriguing to me because it strikes me that against the wishes of the TSX on the superficial side, you are actively operating in the United States in the capacity of research and development, yes, but still you're operating as a cannabis.
With the consent and request of the DEA.
And the FDA.
And the FDA, but principally the DEA, which is the Drug Enforcement Authority, right?
So up is down now.
All it took was 2 years of interacting so that Battelle, us, and we didn't just ship one, no, we've shipped several times. Battelle is a company that unless you don't know anything about them because they're like 12,000 people, they're researchers that are nationally distributed, and they're considered, obviously top tier research platform. And so what I think we're doing is we're advancing the agenda of cannabis by giving stabilized ingredients into a partner who we can jointly develop IP with. And the result is it may feed into a process where elected officials can have more confidence and certainty to make decisions there. And so I think it's a good thing we're doing.
So is that who's sponsoring the research by Battelle? Is government sources?
No, but Battelle does a ton with the government, right? So these ingredients, the key is it's not marijuana. What it is, GMP certified products which are going across as stabilized ingredients that could actually be used consistently through a research mechanism that isn't going to change the ingredients.
Right.
And so this is a little bit more than here's a bag of weed. There's a lot behind it.
Right. Okay, so then is the purpose then product quality research primarily?
I would say it's multi-pronged. One is confirm, hey, these guys have the best quality, the best compliance, and they're the supplier. Second is once it's in, it doesn't have to just be Battelle that we work with. So you can start to have multiple parties in America that we worked with, right? Because the channel's open now.
So you think we can infer from this that the United States is firmly on the path towards federal prohibition?
Well, I think the analogy there may be a bit like I have sloppy handwriting. All doctors have sloppy handwriting, therefore I must be a doctor. So I would say you may have overreached in your assumptions. But
that's what we do
I think
here.
what it means is that well-governed entities can contribute to a path that both creates intellectual property for us and diversified potential data sets for anybody who wants to use them in the U.S. And that's probably valuable stuff, and it's just getting going.
You bet. Okay, that's interesting. Now, what about this that you acquired Storz Bickel? And this is like one of the #1 vape brands in the world.
Correct.
So how did that happen? And I mean, that just makes perfect sense, but wow.
Wow. So Storz Bickel, everybody wants one, not everybody can afford one, right? There's nobody who says, I like cannabis, but I don't. No, they do. And the reason we started talking to them was several years ago. It was one of my first trips to Germany in this business that I got to meet with one of the guys. And what was really evident is people knew their device, but they didn't know the brand of what they put in it. So pretty obviously, you can start seeing now in our world where you can brand delivery mechanisms, you can brand stores, and then over time, you got to have differentiated products that you put in those places. Right. But right now, people will say, I know Storz Bickel or I'll know PAX. That they know the Tweed stores, they know Tokyo Smoke. And they may not love every product that's in there, but they'll come back because they know the store, they trust the experience, the educated staff were good. And they'll come back and see what you have next. And so we bought it because Storz Bickel is a German company which has a hardware focus and a manufacturing platform that's certified. It's a medical device certified in Israel, Germany, and Canada. Big deal. And when they make it, because of their focus, they can produce anything we think of. So they could only access dried cannabis, not oils. So they have these devices, and what we've been doing in Canada is we've had these people working on liquids and mechanisms of delivery for liquids and software. So when you put them together, you got hardware, manufacturing, software, and liquids. And so we think we got a really strong platform that maps out over multiple years to be, a major differentiated, distinctive sort of segment piece. And that's probably going to be very valuable because we don't plan to make it proprietary, just better in a whole bunch of ways.
Okay. So I guess I can infer from that vaping is one of the most common ways to consume your products?
Well, I would say we saw an evolution. Obviously, right now you can still only get dried cannabis or gel caps, which can't be vaped. But we think there's a vape market. We think there's a beverage market. We think there's a Tweed gel cap market. We think there's a bunch of markets and that there's no benefit to us to not trying to be #1 in each of the markets.
Right.
And so this acquisition, this is a 19-year-old company that spent a lot of time on intellectual property and brand and excellence. There's no other one. Like you can't say, well, I'm going to buy the other guy that started 19 years ago and is a medical device and does these things. There isn't one.
Okay.
So you buy it when you can get it. Marcus was ready to start slowing down a little bit, and Jurgen's ready to start going faster a little bit, and they're 50-50 partners, and now everybody's happy. They can just go hard or go and sort of be an advisor to us and then enjoy life a little more.
Right.
And so right place, right time, and you know how you do these deals. You do them really quickly by talking to people for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Really
so are these
quickly
guys based in Germany?
5 or 6 years, and you get to know each other really well. Yeah, they're based in Germany. They're bound.
So that's where the devices are made?
Yeah, it's a great factory. It's exactly what you would expect for a German factory.
Well, we're going to send over Fraser and the camera crew to
You got to
shoot
go check it out because
Okay.
it's half there, like the whole thing works, but we can double the size right at the site. And it is there's a reason the devices are certified and work amazing because they're made in exactly as you would expect every German device to be made.
Well, of course, ultimate precision.
You bet.
Interesting. Okay, so now switching gears a bit here, let's talk financials. And one of the questions that I'm putting out in front of all the CEOs, because it's what the investors want to know, is where does profitability occur in the timeline of Canopy Growth?
So I would say that you have to think and segment that a little smaller. When does profitability on a normalized reported basis occur in Canada? And then I want to show that like a TV screen. Say, here's Canada, here's rec, here's medical, here's the normal G&A, here's the normal IT associated with this, here's the normal R&D spend. And that will look like a great business. And then shareholders will say, well, we'd like you to never do anything else in the world and just pay us a dividend. And we'll tell them they should go buy a bank. Or, this is a great business, can you replicate it over a population that adds at least a 0 or maybe a 0 and then multiplies it by 2 in terms of the total addressable market? And so what we have to do is show an excellent business operating in Canada in the next 18 months or less. And then everybody will say, that is a fantastic business, I'm glad you're trying to dominate the world, I want to buy more of it. Mm-hmm. And so that is really what we're about. I won't be profitable on some enterprise basis until the exponential growth opportunity diminishes, and then it's a totally different game.
But that is your plan, is to demonstrate profitability in the Canadian context?
You got to show a great business, right?
Yeah.
People got to go, I believe. And if you don't believe, then I don't know, go buy a bank. Buy a bank.
That's the best answer I've had yet.
Yeah, buy a bank. If you want a dividend, buy a bank. To me,
I don't want a dividend, I want to smoke weed.
And as an entrepreneur and a builder, I've been told we could have been highly profitable probably 2 or 3 years ago, but I wouldn't be on your show. Because I wouldn't have had a material advantage that we've created by not being profitable, by creating a massive asset base, by getting a launch plan, by having differentiated technology. And then I wouldn't have $5+ billion in the bank because I wouldn't have been the asset that was the best in the sector. And when everybody does their due diligence, then they pay the most to be in the best.
Right.
So I think you got to have a really good business, but a really good business doesn't have to show profit across the platform. Ask Amazon Web Services and Amazon as a whole, how does it work? Their earnings per share can go positive and negative, but their valuation continues to go up because they're building more and more functionality and benefit that people can't live without.
So Canopy is going to be the Amazon of marijuana?
Well, I always like Amazon's chart, and I actually really like how they run the business, right? Because AWS, I don't know about you, but if we shut down AWS, I would say that every business I'm involved with now and in the future can't exist. So what have they done? They've built a platform of preference, and what's probably a very, in a sense, commodity service, hosting. But it's not commodity because they do it so many better ways. You just stick to them and you keep adding more. And so I think we have that platform opportunity. And so Canada will be great. We'll show the rest of the world. And we're not a dividend hander-outer because I think in our growth curve, any dividend I give away means I didn't have a way to make more money than you do. And I think we have a better answer than giving you back your money.
Right. Interesting. Okay, so where in the whole business at this point do your challenges still lie?
Oh, well, that's like a 3-day segment.
3 days, it's Friday, we can't do that.
No, listen, man, the company's gone from 1 site to 10 sites, 1 country to 12 countries. I could probably say we're on the moon, but these announcements are fictitious, so I'm just where we actually have people working. And the world is opening up at such a rate. Challenges are principally making sure you finish Canada, button down IP, keep shifting your form factors up, because when you go from the plant to the extract to the finished good, the medical science and the package, you just keep driving the incremental value. And that you keep doing all that while being very tight on CapEx, very tight on how you spend money. Because the seeds of disaster get sown in good times. And so you got to be very, very, everybody's got to act like there is no money.
Okay.
And when you do that, you're very thoughtful on, do we need to spend this way at this time? And so I would say our challenges are always going to be, how do you keep going fast? How do you keep culture so that people know that we're not a bad headline, we're a good headline, that we expect people to be collaborative, not isolationist. We expect people to be intelligent but kind. That we want always to hear a feedback that, well, you chose not to work with us, you were the most professional company we met, that kind of behavior. And so we spend a lot of time saying to people, well, you've done a great job in Smiths Falls or Niagara, would you like to be in British Columbia? Well, you've done a great job here, would you like to be in Denmark, Australia? And so we got people populating around the globe who understand the operating procedures, the culture, and the expectations. So I would say, it's just scale, scale, scale. But it's been the same thing for 5-6 years.
Okay, how much of that $5 billion do you have left?
I think we got about all of it.
Really?
Yeah, because we had cash before we raised it. It wasn't about use of proceeds or a raise. It was really about we want to make a difference in the world. We want to make a difference in the world and really push this. They really want to lean in on it, put the cash in the bank, and then 100% compound on each other. And so that, and it's weird, when you have cash, people want to give you cash. Would you like $1 billion loan becomes a phone call. That was not a phone call before we had $5 billion. And so we're not pulling that billion in yet, or those sorts of things, but you really do think about how do we get it. And then all of a sudden when you have cash and you build a building, people say, would you like me to build that building for you and own it? Because I know you can pay the rent. Where before, man, you couldn't. So I would say we're just having to adjust to the expectation of how do you use cash in a way that results in keeping it all.
Sure. I remember we had a conversation a few years ago about, monetizing the building, the Hershey factory, and it was impossible because no bank would come near it. And now, look at 3 short years later, you've got every bank under the sun coming at you with loans.
Yeah, remember you were up in the, you came up to see us, and one of the challenges then was that we had about 300,000 or 400,000 square feet of empty space, and what the hell was I going to do with it? I was either storing my snowmobile or my boat, depending on the season.
Right.
And now there's no place because that one's full. We bought across the road. We bought the other one across the road. We've expanded to the maximum lot coverage, I think, at that site. So it's about 1 million square feet around there, sort of give or take by the time we're done the bottling plant. And now it's not looking like a terrible idea to have occupied a substantial site with big growth area.
Sure. Your growth strategy has been characterized by focusing on your own internal organic growth, capacity-wise, production-wise, but you've also made strong partnerships with other craft growers. Let's call them craft growers because they're not on an industrial scale per se. And recently you announced this this multi-year partnership with Valens GroWorks, an extractor. So it seems to me like you're more or less becoming a sort of a mothership of assets that are operating on their own and isolate you and diversify you, isolate you from risk to some degree and diversify you.
Yeah,
that's the strategy.
That's a pretty good summary. Yeah, so I would say all I would do is a little bit of wrapper on that. Is a bunch of the stuff ties into rivers and growth, and so maybe we take product from a rivers investment, flow it over to growth. Maybe we make an investment in an extractor so that we can then take offtake of that. So it kind of becomes like a little ecosystem as well as a timing of product, time to market. Because I think you can expect that Q1 is going to have a calendar, a continued big demand. And you got to be thinking about what happens by Q4 when we have these new product formats, and how am I building a massive share and coverage while making sure we're also incrementing our delivery capability for all of what's next. And so you can't do that in June. You got to be doing that now. So we've done 3 things in the last 2 weeks, which involved extraction for 2 and flower for 1.
Okay.
Right. So you saw. I don't know if you picked up. We had was it 48 North, Valens, and I just say it badly, MediPharm.
Right.
And so each of those deliver a proposition. I actually really like. I think Valens and MediPharm. Those are kind of evolutionary business models that I don't think everybody's picked up on, the fact that there's an actual intermediary step that will be specialized and valuable.
Yeah, no, that was really, so Allison's on our show regularly. She's one of our favorites. And so when we saw that deal, I thought, well, that's interesting because it was done directly with Canopy and not through Rivers, which...
Yeah, we just needed product.
Right.
And then, when you need product, there's a little bit of equity. Sometimes you'll buy up because then they're building a bigger thing and we'll get more product. If it was just a pure play, it might have gone through Rivers. And, we have, part of the things with Rivers, we have so many deals. Like we have what we got in Canada, but then we've got expansions globally. I was chatting with the guys last night, you're starting to get inbounds where it's like, I'm from, and pick a country, they're finding Rivers. And so we're really looking at how do we make that a big international thing, not just a Canadian domestic. And we already have one investment in Italy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Bruce, that's enough for today. We'll come back to you again in due course. Thanks for joining me today.
Well, thank you, sir. Have a good holiday.
Thank you, too. Okay.